live
Streaming is on.
look. Thank you. So if any process activities አሉት በመሃል ላይ ፕሮሰስ ስንል እንግዲህ number of activity ነው ብለናል ባለፈው start and end ያለው ማለት ነው። ሶ በዚህ start and ውስጥ ኮንስትሬንቶች አሉን። ምን ማለት ነው? የጊዜ ኮንስትሬንት፣ የኮስት ኮንስትሬንት ይኖራል and ሪሶርስ ኮንስትሬንቶች አሉ። እነዚህ ኮንስትሬንቶቹን ተጠቅሞ ነው የሚጠብቀውን ጎል አቺቭ የሚያደርገው right። ስለዚህ it's a process with a goal but with limited constraints። ነገር ግን a project is a unique process which may not be repeated, right? Exactly, will not be repeated. So every project has its own unique identity. So that's what it is, uniqueness. So the uniqueness comes from the characteristics of the project. So most of the times, ለምሳሌ የኢንዱስትሪ ቢዝነስ ኦፕሬሽንስ are the temporary, are not unique process. They are process, but they are not projects, because the operations will be repeated and becomes routine activities. So the uniqueness is based on because of the characteristics of the project. And the other thing is a project can be any of size and duration. በግለሰብ የሚሰራ ለምሳሌ አሁን ዛሬ የራት ፕሮግራም ቢኖረኝ እንግዶች በጋበዝ it's a project, right? until ከስተመሩ እንግዶች መጥተው ተስተናግደው እስኪመለሱ ድረስ ያለው activity has a process, has a constraint of time, has a constraint of resource, right? And cost, it has a cost also, right? And also it may be complex, which is launching a space shuttle. So a project can be sized from individual goals to the national or international goals and activities within that. So it becomes very easy. You can say that it's very simple project when it comes to individual. For example, if I have a project of reading some specified book, so reading that specific book is a project for me, because until I achieved reading that book, it's a project. And maybe launching a space shuttle for the government is also another project. So the complexity of the activities into these different projects are very different, as the size of the project is different as it is marathon. So generally projects can be made of a defined beginning and a defined end. And within that, you have multiple activities which can be performed with a plan. So you have to follow the defined plans and activities within that specified project. But all projects has start and end. መጀመሪያ መጨረሻ ያስፈልጋቸዋል። And the project is a set of activities that are related to one another, and all activities must be completed in order to complete the project. And the project also uses material and manpower resources. So these two basic things are very, very, very important for the completion of the project. If you miss a manpower in a project, then the project will not be accomplished as per the required time. And if you have limited material resources, also the same. So in order to accomplish a project in time with that specified time, because the project has specified start and end. So as a project manager, you have to be able to allocate the required material and the required manpower resources so that you can accomplish that project within the specified time. So what we have to do is, in order to make these two things very accurate, you have to learn the project management techniques, right? If you are not perfect in project management techniques, then you will miss in allocating the required material and manpower on the project activities. So because of that, we will learn project management as a technique, so that we can be perfect in allocating these two kind of resources in our project. So there are different features of the project. Project is non-repetitive, on time effort ነው የሚፈልገው. That's why I call it unique ያለው በዚህ ምክንያት ነው። It is well-defined collection of jobs or activities within that project. Jobs interrelated or activities in the project will be interrelated. So they have some kind of precedences based on the activities. So So one will precede the other, and the other will succeed the other, right? For example, if I have project A comes after project B, I mean activity B, and activity C, all right? So activity A and B precedes C, and C is succeeds B, right? So that kind of relationship are there, precedency and succeeding the other. So precedency is the one thing that we have to know. And activities may be independent on the accomplishment of the project, because they have their own goals, even if they are within the one goal project. But every activity or every job, you can say, on the project has to have their own objectives. They have to be independent. If one is dependent on the other, then something will be wrong. So just you have to allocate resources for all accountable activities in the project. That is very important. The jobs will consume time, to be coordinated, and the constant pressure on the conformance of time, cost, performance is quality measurement in project. So this is a very important term that you have to remember, which you have to accomplish a project within a specified time. We have to accomplish a project within a specified cost, and we have to achieve the specified goals on selecting the project. So this is the quality measurement in project, so that there will be very critical features on identifying the projects. Projects can be classified into different types according to their complexity. For example, you may say easy projects, complicated projects, or based on the source of capital, you may say public projects, private projects, mixed projects, right? Or based on the content that the project they have. For example, you may say construction projects because they have civil works and architectural workers within that project. Or you may say the IT project, which is because they have software and other things within that project. A business project, right? Cost management or other things, right? Service and product production is a company project. For example, R&D department may say they have a project within that company, because their objective is to maximize the productivity, so that they will develop a product or service in designing that project. So service or product production will be a project based on the content, right? Or based on teams or stakeholders involved in the project. You can classify projects into departmental projects, internal projects, or material projects, which is a combination of different departments, or you may say external projects, right? So projects can be classified into different things based on whatever that you want to classify. For example, you can also classify projects based on objective, which is a production of project, social project, educational project, community project, research project, right? So you can face with different kind of projects. That's what I'm saying. And projects will be used if you want to have a better control, if you want to have a better customer relationship, if you want to have a better communication, if you have to have a higher quality results. And projects will not be usually used. For example, you cannot use projects in functional organizations because they are routine activities. You cannot use project management in accounting because they are also routine activities. And sometimes you cannot use always project management in your personal life, right? You cannot make your personal life as a project. So it is a life itself. Or you cannot use project management if you employ mature employees. Operation in general, you cannot use operation management, right? So in operation management, it has to be unique by its nature, and it has to have starting and ending, and between there has to be some complicated or complex or whatever easy activities, and that's what we call it, the project management or project in our definition. So there are different models in project management. This is the World Bank project lifecycle model. So always projects start from identification, which you identify the problem or the needs that initiates the project. So based on that identification, you will develop some kind of project proposal that will lead you to the preparation, which project proposal, including the finance and technique, will be prepared based on that identified need. And then this project proposal will be will go to the process of appraisal. ቅድም ያልነው ማለት ነው በኤችፒ ማትሪክስ ኢቫሉዌት ባደረግንበት መልኩ will be the project evaluation will be there. So as a World Bank company, that company may have a number of projects applied.
Appraisal ማለት ፋይናንስ ነው።
Evaluation ማለት ነው። You can በፋይናንስ ሜጀር ማድረግ ትችላለህ, or just it's a kind of selecting a project. It means you give them for here there will be a project evaluation. So using that project evaluation, using the technical, using the finance, using whatever criteria you use, you select one project from the number of projects applied projects. You select one and you give finance for that. That is financing included here. Financing is the kind of giving money to be implemented, right? That project to be implemented in the process. So እንትኑን ፕሮሰስን ለማሳጠር ነው appraisal and financing ነው የሚለው appraisal evaluation, then at evaluation that you will select the project and the selected project will be financed. That's what it is. Financing ሲል ማለት እንደዛ ነው። ግልጽ ነው መርሻ? So the financed project will be implemented actually, and then its progress will be evaluated as per the defined criteria, and then the process will continue. If there is a gap, and then on that gap, the concept will be developed, and then proposal will be developed, and then the appraisal and financing, and it continues. So a project life cycle, according to World Bank, is endless loop. So government may have its own project life cycle, a specified company may have its own life cycle, but this is a general project life cycle that you may consider if you are involved in project management. So project has different structures. Basically can mention level 1 structure, which includes the final project purpose. ቅድም እንዳልነው በኤችፒ አናሊሲስ እንዳየነው ማለት ነው። And the second level, we may consider the sub-components of the project. And the third level, we may have different definable components. It has to be definable, means the goals of that sub-activity has to be clearly known. If you include activities or sub-levels which cannot be defined, then the project will not be completed, right? So when you write a project, every activity that has to be done on that specific project has to be definably known and accountable. So that is very critical criteria that has to know. So you can have a number of levels according to the depth of the activity in your project, right? So you can have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and whatever levels that you have. The levels indicate the levels of activity that has to be accomplished in the specified project. It's kind of like of assembly, right? And the other one basic technique in project management is the Gantt chart. So in order to visualize the project activity and also the accomplishing date or the duration of the activities, you can use the this Gantt chart, so that the Gantt chart will help you to visualize the project activity and also the duration. And this the Gantt chart also can show you also the progress, right? It's not only the durations that it shows, the start and end, it can also show you the progress. So if you are the supervisor of this project, then what you have to do is you go to that Gantt chart and check where is the progress of the project at that specified time. So you can put a percent of accomplishment for that specific activity, and you can compare with the plan in what time you left, or how much time you slack from the available time. So this is very important in controlling the project. So for the controlling purpose, Even it's planning. It's not only controlling. It's also used for the planning. So Gantt chart will help you to plan and control the project. On the control, you put the progresses, and on the plan, you just put the activities and their accomplishment time or durations in the specified dates in the Gantt chart, right? So this is very important. So you can develop your Gantt chart. So I will not focus on that, because the course objective is not project management, so that I will not force you to draw the Gantt chart. So, but if you are interested in knowing the application of Gantt chart in project management, you are welcome to draw the Gantt chart here, but I recommend you to practice it in your home, right? But most importantly, in project management, you can specify the times in the project management in two ways, as you learn it in stochastic, right? The first way is a deterministic way, right? A deterministic way, and the other one is called the stochastic way. What does mean deterministic way? Means you exactly know the accomplishment time of this specific activity, right? Based on your experience, or based on your last time operation, you just can exactly estimate by how much this specific activity may require on your project accomplishment, or in your actual operation. But the other way of putting numbers in Gantt chart is the stochastic approach. And this stochastic approach, the project may be new for you as an expert, or maybe new as a country. For example, you may take the dam. So dam for the first time for our country was a first project. So every activity may not be exactly known. So in that sense, you can put kind of stochastic approaches. Just we will see it in part, which is program evaluation and review technique ላይ እነዛን ታይሚንጎች በደንብ እናያቸዋለን። ሶ እዚህም ጋንት ቻርት ላይ ማምጣት እንችላለን። ምን ማለት ነው እነዚህ ስቶካስቲክ ማለት ስናስቀምጣቸው? just you can put the estimation time, and you can put the optimistic time, you can put the pessimistic time, right? What does it mean? As you know, optimistic means that everything will be okay, right? Everything will be okay. Optimistic means everything will never be okay, right? So that is a pessimistic time. So you can take the expected time, which is the average time of those two, expected and pessimistic times. So that is how we put the times in Gantt chart when we use the stochastic approach. But most of the times we use the deterministic approach, because we are expected to be experienced before we involve it in the project, right? So most of the times we use the deterministic approach. So based on those timings, that means based on that deterministic and stochastic timings, you can have a network scheduling, right? Which is called the critical path method and the program evaluation review technique, which the critical path method uses the deterministic approach, and the program evaluation review technique uses the probabilistic approach, which is called the stochastic method, right? So you can use these both informations when you do the networking or scheduling of the project in project management. So now let me have a clear picture for you to understand what is network scheduling, right? A network scheduling is a kind of precedency of the use the precedency of the activities and tries to draw the network of the project, the network of the project. So you can exercise drawing the network of the network of the project like this. For example, this is called the arc network, which uses the arc as the basic drawing method. So that in this drawing, for example, you can see there is an activity A. In network drawing, you can have basic terms that you have to understand is you have an arrow, which is called the activity, right? This arrow indicates the activity, and also indicators this activity will consume a resource, right? So if you draw like this, it is called an activity, and that activity is expected to consume a resource. And when you draw that activity, most of the times we write the name of the activity and also the time required to accomplish the activity. Most of the times we write times right below the activity name, so you can write 2, for instance. So that means this activity A will consume 2 time according to your measurement, for example 2 minutes, right? You can say. And based on this basic informations, you can have the precedences, right? Just reading by the precedences, you can connect the graphs into different points, right? So this is how we draw the networks. In drawing the networks, we have to have one basic thing, which is called the merging and bursting approaches, which is, for example, if I have these two, this is called the node. This is called the node. So if one activity comes to that node, if 2 activities comes to that node, that's called the merging activities, right? It's called the merging activities. And if 2 activities are bursted from that event, they are called the bursting activity. And if the combination of both 2 is called the merge and burst activities. The merge and the burst of those activities. So based on these 2 definitions, you can draw the network diagram. So for instance, here we have A is the first job to be performed. So A will be first to be performed, and B and C can be done concurrently and must follow A. Concurrently means there has to be accomplished in parallel. It has to be accomplished in parallel, and has to follow A means after A finished, then you can continue to operate B, and you can continue to operate C, right? But they has to be done in concurrent. And B must precede D. So B must precede D means D is succeeding B ማለት ነው በሌላ አነጋገር. So there will be and there will be D. And E must succeed C, or C E precedes C precedes E ማለት ነው በሌላ አነጋገር. So just we have this one. And finally, the last operation is F. That will be how we put it. But here we have a dummy activity. A dummy activity will be like this. እዚህ ጋር እንደምታዩት እቺ ኮድ dummy activity ትባላለች. A dummy activity is an activity which are not consuming any resources. You cannot consume any resource. Sorry for the writing. ምንም አይነት resource consume አያደርግም. But these dummy activities most of the times represent the concurrency of the activities, right? The concurrency of the activities. So you have to wait until C. For example, ከዚህ ግራፍ እንደምታነቡት what does it mean? It means that you cannot continue operating E without finishing C or B. Okay, we say that C and B are concurrent activities, so we cannot start B and E without finishing D and E without finishing B and C. So this shows the precedency and the concurrency of the activity. So this is called the dummy activity. So based on this, you can draw any kind of networks. Then you can exercise by yourself this one, and the result will be as this. I will not teach you this network diagram because this is not the core point of the course, but you have to know it anyways. Does you know? And before I go to this one, if you have any question, or if you are not following me, I can go back and try to explain it again. Are you following me? Thank you very much. Okay, any question?
እንትን ፕሮጀክት ሪፒት አይደለም የሚል ቀደም ስትናገር ሰምቼ ነው።
Projects are not repetitive. Yeah, that's the feature of the project. Yes. To not be repetitive means it will not repeat again. If you start it, for example, ካይዘን ፕሮጀክት አለናል። ለምሳሌ እናንተ ፕሮጀክት እናንተ ጋር እያደረኩኝ ካምፓኒ ዋይ የሚባል ሄጄ ባደርግ it will be implemented with a different approach because it refers to the context of the company. In the context of the company, different to the context. So the project implementation of Kaizen your company and Kaizen that company will be different.
ተነጋገሪያንቺ ከዛ ለሱ ስጭ።
You are asking a question, but you are discussing with the other issues. Any ጥያቄ?
ሶሪ ዶክተር ስራ ቦታ ሆኜ
በቃ ትቼዋለሁ። ሌላ ጥያቄ ሌላ ያልገባው ሰው ካለ? ግልጽ ነው። ልቀጥል?
ቀጥል።
እሺ ቴዲ አለ? ፍቃዱ አለ?
አለው ሰር።
እሺ አንተ ነህ?
አለው
ግልጽ ነው። እየሰማ ነው?
ስፒከሩ ለኔ ይሰማኛል። እኔ ነው ማውራት ማልችለው ነበር።
እሺ
አሁን ይሰማል።
መልካም።
ስክሪኑ ግን ሸር አልተደረገ። አሁን ሸር ሆኗል።
አሁን አጥፍቼው ነው ጥያቄ ስለነበር። ስለዚህ ያገለጠው ጥያቄ የነበረው ምንድነው? just what makes the project unique and what does it mean by saying the feature of the project that projects will not be repetitive, right?
Okay.
Just an idea, by idea ደረጃ you can repeat project which can repeat the implementation of Kaizen in X company and Y company and Z company, whatever it is, right? You can repeat building design in constructing it in Bahar Dar, constructing it in DEBRE, right? But the actual scenario when we face the actual implementation, would we have a different scenarios? ለምሳሌ ባህር ዳር ላይ ቢልድ የማደርገው ቢልዲንግ ድንጋያማ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ አፈራማ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ ጭቃ የሞላበት ሊሆን ይችላል። ወደ ደብረ ብርሃን ስመጣ ደግሞ ሌላ ሴናሪዮ የቅዝቃዜ ሴናሪዮ አለ። ድንጋያማ አለት ሊያጋጥመኝ ይችላል፣ ላያጋጥመኝ ይችላል። ሌሎቹ ነገሮች ማለት ነው። ፕሮጀክት ኢምፕሊሜንቴሽን ስንሄድ አንድ ካምፓኒ ላይ የካይዘን ሀሳብ የገባው ለኢምፕሊሜንቴሽን ዝግጁ የሆነ ሞቲቬሽን ያለው ሪል ፕሮብሌም አይደንቲፋይ የተደረገበት ሴናሪዮስ ሊገባ ይችላል። ሌላኛው ጋር ሲሄድ ደግሞ ምንም ነገር የማይታወቅበት ሰራተኞቹ አገንስቱ ዳት ኢምፕሊሜንቴሽን የሚሄዱበት ሊያጋጥመኝ ይችላል ማለት ነው አይደለም። ስለዚህ because of the project environment and context of the project implementation, every project has its own unique identity and features and characteristics. So that because of that we say project is not repetitive. Right now? Galata, did I explain it well for you to understand?
ግልጽ ነው ዶክተር።
Okay, so as I said before, the objective of the course is not project management, so I'm not getting in detail how we construct this network diagram. But if you are well to learn, and if you are interested to learn about constructing the network diagram, you can exercise this example, and also you can take other examples so that you can be able to construct the network diagrams. But for now, let me assume that you understand how we constructed it, that we based on the precedences. We read from this table, a given precedency table. So based on reading that, we say that, for example, here activity A will not have any precedence. So activity A will be the first activity, and activity B will be succeeding A, or B A precedes B. So we say that B has to be continued from A. Similarly, activity C will continue from A or succeeds from A. So we have this one. Okay. So when have here, for example, here D, activity D will be preceded by B. So D is here. A will be preceded by B, and F will be preceded by B. So by reading the precedency and mapping the activities on the network, you can develop a network diagram. That's how much it is easy. So finally, if you have this network diagram, the most important thing that we want to learn is in estimating the time of accomplishment. Because we select a particular project, and when and how it will be accomplished is very important. So that's why we have to know the network diagram and the techniques in calculating the times in the network diagram. So in that specific calculation, we can consider the method of PERT, which is program evaluation and review technique, or you can use the CPM, which is critical path method. The critical path method considers the deterministic times, and the PERT will use the stochastic or probabilistic times, right? So just the objective of these two approaches is nothing but to identify the critical activity that will not be evaluated, right? Will not be evaluated, or will not have any time allowance in accomplishment of this project. So if there is one time deviation in this critical path, right, the project completion time will be deviated at all. So the most critical attention የሚሰጥበት የፕሮጀክት ክሪቲካል ታይም project critical path መለየት ነው። So every project has one critical path, or maybe more than one critical path. It depends to the kind of network diagram. But the most criteria to help us to identify this critical path is the path that has the highest or the longest time will be the critical time. So if two paths have equal longest time, then there will be two critical paths in the project. That's what we deal with the critical paths. So before knowing those critical paths, but we have to calculate the following. ክሪቲካል ፓዝ የሚባለው ከመለየታችን በፊት እነዚህ ካልኩሌሽኖች
አነባበሩ ላይ ዶክተር
yes
የአሁኑ ግራፍ
yes
ስናነብ ቀስቱን ለምሳሌ አሁን ሲኤ አለ ቀስቱን ወደ ኋላ ባክ ነው የሚያደርገው ቀስቱ ፊት ለፊት ነው አይደል
ሲኤ አለ
ሲ ይቻታለች ከታች 1 2 10 በሁለት እና በ10 መሃል ላይ ያለው ሲ አይደል ከዛ ሲኤ ቴብሉ
እኮ ምንድነው የምትለኛው ጥያቄ ምን
አይ አነባበቡና ቀስቱ እንትን አይልም እንደገና ደግሞ ኤች ዲ ኢ ልና ሌሎቹ ላይ መልስም ባክ ያረጋል ከኤች ወደ ዲ ኢ
ባክ ማድረግ የለበት ታለ ባክ የሚያረጋል አይታየኝም እኔ ይሄ አሮ እንደዚህ ነው
ቀስቱ ፎርዋርድ ነው ግን ቀስቶቹ እኮ ወደፊት ናቸው ጽሁፉ ደግሞ የኋለኛው ከቀስቱ በፊት ያለው ይቀድምና ከኋላ ያለው ደግሞ እንትን ይላል
ጥያቄ ግልጽ አልሆነልኝም ለምሳሌ አሁን ይሄ ማለት ምን ማለት ነው አክቲቪቲ ሲ የሚያልቀው መቼ ነው አክቲቪቲ ሲ የሚያልቀው ኤም የሚባል አክቲቪቲ እስኪያልቅ ድረስ ይጠብቃል ማለት ይሄ the longest activity ነው ማለት ነው አይደል so activity ኤም
ሲኩዌንስ ነው ዶክተር የጠየቀው እሱ ሲኩዌንስ ነው ለምሳሌ አይጂ እና አይጂ ቴብል ላይ አይጂ ነው የሚለው እንትኑ ላይ ግን ጂ አይልም ወይ ለማለት መሰለኝ ይፈልግ
እንደሱ አይደለም አሁን የምናነበው እንደሱ አይደለም አሁን አንዴ አዳምጥ ልሳላችሁ የምራሱ ምሳሌ ከፈለጋችሁ መጀመሪያ የሚሰጠን ይሄኛ ነው አሁን እነዚህ ባክ አክቲቪቲዎች አሉ አክቲቪቲ ኤ የሚባል አለ ቢ ሲ ዲ ኢ ኤፍ ጂ ኤች አይ ጄ ኬ ኤል ኤም ኤን or you can give them the name አሁን it doesn't matter right ስም መስጠት ይችላል 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 ማለት ይችላል depends አሁን this is called the activity name ይሄኛው ደግሞ the precedency ማለት ነው የሚባለው ሁለተኛው precedency ይባላል እንግዲህ አክቲቪቲ ኤን ፕሪሲድ የሚያደርግ የለም ማለት አክቲቪቲ ኤ መጀመሪያ የሚከናወን አክቲቪቲ ነው ማለት ነው ዋን እና ቱ ማለት ምን ማለት ነው this is starting node 1 ending node for a ለአንደኛው ኢንዲንግ ኖድ የሆነ ሌላኛው መጀመሪያ ይሆናል። እሱ በኋላ ስደርስበት አወራችኋለሁ። ስለዚህ በዚህ በመጀመሪያው ከቴብሉ መጀመሪያ ላይ አክቲቪቲ ኤ ፕሬሲደንስ የለውም ካልን አክቲቪቲ ኤ መጀመሪያ የሚሰራ ነው ማለት ነው። ከዛ በኋላ አክቲቪቲ ኤ ካለቀ በኋላ ኔክስት ማን ነው የሚቀጥለው ነው? አክቲቪቲ ቢ ነው የሚቀጥለው በዚህ አቀማመጥ። አክቲቪቲ ቢ ደግሞ ኤ ቀድመዋል አለን። ኦኬ ኤ ቀድመዋል ካልን ምን ማለት ነው? አክቲቪቲ ኤ እንዳለቀ this is ending node ኤንዲንግ ኖድ ነች። አክቲቪቲ ኤ እንዳለቀ ማን ይጀምራል ማለት ነው? ቢ የሚባል ይጀምራል አለን። ሶ ቢ ደግሞ የሚያልቅበት ታይም ይኖረዋል 3 ብለን ሰጠን። then አክቲቪቲ ሲ ጋር ስንሄድ አክቲቪቲ ሲ again ኤ ሲያልቅ ነው ስላት ሚንስ አክቲቪቲ ኤ ሲያልቅ ሲ ትጀምራለች አለ። we stop that, we write that, and then we go to ዲ ስንሄድ ዲ አክቲቪቲ ቢ ሲያልቅ ነው የሚሆነው። ለምሳሌ አክቲቪቲ ኤ ቢ ስታርት ያደረገው እዚህ ጋር ነው፣ ኢንድ ያደረገው እዚህ ጋር ነው። ስለዚህ አክቲቪቲ ቢ እንዳለቀ ዲ የሚባል እንጀምራለን። ያዳመጥከኝ ነው በርሻ? and then አክቲቪቲ ኤ will be there። አክቲቪቲ ኤ የሚባለው የሚጀምረው አክቲቪቲ ቢ እንዳለቀ ነው። ስለዚህ አክቲቪቲ ቢ የሚባለው እንዳለቀ ማን ይጀምራል? ኢ የሚባለው ይጀምራል አለ። that's how we do it. So that will be ending here. okay activity f አለ እዚህ ጋር activity f still አሁንም ቢ ነው የሚቀድመው አለን። so we write that like this f activity g right e ቀድመዋል አለን። e ቅድም ያስቀመጥነው እዚህ ጋር ነው አይደል? g e ቀድመዋል አለን። ስለዚህ ኢ ማለቅ አለች ኢ ብለን አስቀምጠናል። ወይ እዚህ ጋር መምጣት ትችላላችሁ ከስለት እንትን ካለ then g ይቀጥላል ያለን። so እንደዚህ ያልን ምን ሄደው ማለት ነው until you finish all the network.
okay አሁን ገብቶኛል።
so reading this ኤም ፕሬሲደንስ ታነባለህ እዚህ ጋር ድሮ ታደርጋለህ ማለት ነው።
ዶክተር ኔት እዚህ ላይ ጥያቄ አለኝ እኔ።
እሺ ቀጥል።
ለምሳሌ አክቲቪቲ ሲ ላይ ከ2 እስከ 10 ነው ያለው
እንዳለ አንቺበት።
ከዛ በኋላ ነው ሌሎቹ በብዛት የተሰሩት። ይሄ ቀድሞ መሰራት ስላለበት ነው ሲኩዌንሱን ከጠበቀ ብዬ
ነገርኩህ እኮ። ለምሳሌ አክቲቪቲ ሲ እና ኤም አብሮ ነው የሚያልቁት ማለት አክቲቪቲ ሲ ኤች እስኪያልቅ ማን ነው ኤች አልቆ ኤል አልቆ አይም አልቆ ጄም ኤቭሪቲንግ ካለቀ በኋላ ከቢጅ እነዚህ በሙሉ አልቀው ኤም ሲያልቅ ነው አብሮ የሚያልቀው። ይሄ ረጅሙ አክቲቪቲ ነው አልኩ።
ኦኬ
ረጅሙ አክቲቪቲ ነው። እስከዛ ድረስ ኦፕሬሽን ላይ ነው ማለት ነው።
ኦኬ አብሮ እየሄደ ማለት ነው።
አዎ ፓራ ኮንከረንት ከነዚህኛዎቹ ኔትወርክ ጋር ኮንከረንትሊ የምታስኬደው አክቲቪቲ እንደ ማለት ረጅም ጊዜ የሚወስደው ማለት ነው። ከዛ ኤም ሲያልቅ ግን አብሮ ያልቃል ማለት ነው። ምክንያቱም ኤም ካለቀ ኤን መጨረስ አለብን። ምናልባት አሁን ለምሳሌ አክቲቪቲ ሲ 2 ደቂቃ ቢወስድ 2 ሚኒት ቢሆን አክቲቪቲ ሲ አንድ ሲናሪዮ ላምጣልህ ብዬ ነው። ይሄ ደግሞ 10 ደቂቃ ቢፈጅስ? በዚህ በኩል ከላይ ያሉት ከቢ ጀምሮ ወደ ኤም የሚያልቅበት ለምሳሌ የኤም ማለቂያው 10 ደቂቃ ቢሆን ማለት ነው። ዝም ብዬ ልተውና ያኛውን ተውና ኤም የሚያልቀው at the end of 10 ሚኒት ነው ከተባለ ምን ማለት ነው? አክቲቪቲ ሲ ለ8 ሚኒት ምን ይሆናል?
ይቆያል።
አይድል ይሆናል። አይድል ነው ይቆይ፣ ምክንያቱም አይዘጋም። አይድል አድርገው ተቆይና at the end of m ሲያልቅ ለምሳሌ ኮምፖነንት አሰምብሊ ከሆነ የኛውን ኮምፖነንት ጨርሰው ሌሎቹ ኮምፖነንቶች እስኪያልቁ ድረስ ለምሳሌ ኤም የሚባለው ሳብ ፕሮዳክት እስኪመጣ እነዚህን አሰምብል አድርገህ ተጠብቅና ኤም የሚባለው ሲመጣ ነው ሲ አሰምብል የሚደረገው እንደማለት አይደለ? ግልጽ ነው። that's what precedence means። ይሄ ካለን ይሄንን ኔትወርክ ዲያግራም ዴቨሎፕ ካደረግን አሁን የታይም አሰስመንት ልንሄድ ነው ማለት ነው። ታይም አሰስመንት ማለት ኦልሬዲ ቅድም እንዳልኳችሁ የዚህ ፕሮጀክት ክሪቲካል ፓዝ የትኛው ነው? that means ምንም ሪሶርስ በትክክል አሎኬት ማድረግ በዋና ለምን ስንነሳ ቅድም ብያችኋለሁ። የፕሮጀክት ማኔጅመንት የምንፈልገው በዋናነት የሪሶርስ ማኔጅመንታችንን እና ማቴሪያል ሪሶርስ አሎኬሽን እና የሂውማን ሪሶርስ አሎኬሽናችንን በአግባቡ ለመስራት ነው ብለናል። the two Very important things in project management. So if you are not able to identify the critical path in the network, you are not be able to allocate the appropriate man and material in the critical path. If you miss to allocate the appropriate material and machine in that critical path, that means you influence the total project accomplishment time. ክሪቲካል ያልሆነ ነገር ለምሳሌ አሁን የአንድ ፕሮጀክት ለምሳሌ አንድ የቢልዲንግ ስራ የህንፃ ስራ ፋውንዴሽን መስራት ክሪቲካል ነው። እንትኖችን ማቆም ኮሎኖችን ማቆም ክሪቲካል ነው። ነገር ግን ይህን ትቶ አንድ ኮንትራክተር ግቢ አጥር ሲሰራ ቢከርም ወይም ድሬኔጅ ሲሰራ የግቢ ዙሪያውን ድሬኔጅ ሲሰራ ቢከርም አፕሮፕሪየት ያልሆነው ክሪቲካል ያልሆነ አክቲቪቲ ላይ ስለሆነ ኢንቨስትመንት ሲያደርግ የከረመው በመጨረሻ ላይ ፕሮጀክቱ ዱሬሽኑ ይራዘማል አይደለም። ስለዚህ ያ እንዳይሆን ክሪቲካል የሆኑትን አክቲቪቲዎች ለይቶ ሪሶርስ፣ የማቴሪያል ሪሶርስ፣ የኢኩዊፕመንት ሪሶርስ፣ የሂውማን ሪሶርስ አሎኬሽን ሊደረግ ይገባል። ያንን ለማድረግ የሚያግዘን ሜቶዶሎጂ ክሪቲካል ፓዙን መለየት ነው አይደል? critical path መለየት ነው። So how we can find the critical path and what will be the meaning of critical path in project scheduling and management? እሱ ላይ እንግዲህ ደንብ ለማየት እንሞክራለን ማለት ነው። እንግዲህ በዛ ውስጥ ይሄ አሁን ያልኳችሁ critical path method, the main issue in critical path method is time analysis, which you have two kind of times that as I discussed before. Whether you may have a deterministic time or whether you may have a probabilistic time. Based on the time kind that we have, you can make a time analysis on the network diagram. So before doing that time analysis, again you have to have a perfect network diagram, right? The network diagram is the most important element in time analysis. So if the network diagram is wrong, then your time analysis will be wrong. So you have to be very careful in having the perfect network diagram before you go to the time analysis. So in time analysis, the activity time is a very important thing, which we have to exactly know the starting and the ending time of the any activity, where it starts and where it ends. So that will be the time between those starting and ending of the activity. So any activity should have a starting time, right, and the ending time. So this is very important. The activity starting and the activity ending time. So that duration, you call it, that is a duration, right? So that duration has to be known, so that we may have a normal condition to accomplish the project in expected times. So the main objective in time analysis is, right, to prepare a planning schedule, because everything will be based on your accomplishment or time accomplishment of accomplishment of your project with respect to time. That means the investment that you have to invest for 2 weeks may be different the investment that has to be accomplished with 2 months or 2 years. So time is very critical and very fundamental in project management. So you have to clearly know the durations of every activity in the project network. Based on the project network or from the project network, you have to identify those times. So by knowing the time by doing the time analysis, at the end of that time analysis, you can have the following results. The following is the first is total completion time for the project. So you can go to this network diagram, right? The project starts at activity A and it ends at activity N, right? Everything is between A and N. Or you can say the project starts at node 1 and ends at node 11. So in between, you have a number of starting and ending nodes, right? So by doing that time analysis, you can exactly know how much you have to wait until you reach into node 11. So that means the total completion time of the project. Node 11 will give you the total completion time of the project. So this is the first result that we expect from the time analysis. And the other is the earliest time when each activity starts, right? The earliest and the latest, both are the two very important terms that we have to very familiar with. For example, here is the starting and ending for activity A with K accomplishment time. This is for single activity. So for this single activity A, that activity A has accomplishment or duration of K, right? So there will be some earliest time that this activity can start. በኤርሊ ሚንስ በፊት ማለት ነው። ለምሳሌ 2 ሰዓት ይጀምራል ከተባለ 1 ሰዓት ከ55 መጀመር ይችላል ወይ እንደማለት ነው። ኢንለስ ታይም ማለት right ሴት ካደረግንበት የፕሮጀክት ታይም በፊት መጀመር ማለት ነው። or you can also have the latest time is ቢዘገይስ ለምሳሌ 2 ሰዓት እንደ ቤንችማርክ አስቀመጥ ነው ፕሮጀክቱ ላውንች የሚደረግበት right. So you can start the project at 155 መጀመር ይቻላል or you can start at 205 ልንል ይቻላል ማለት ነው። So the project's earliest time is 155 and the project latest time is 255. So that's the latest and the earliest definition. And if there is a difference in the completion times, it's called the floating time of the activity, right? ለምሳሌ the finishing time of this activity has different options. That means it can be finished after 2 ሰዓት ጀመረ ለምሳሌ 3 ሰዓት ቢያልቅ this is the actual expected. So if you are able to accomplish this project with the latest time of 305, so this specific activity has 5-minute floating time. Means ከ3 ሰዓት መጨረሻው ነው ኤክስፔክት የምናደርገው ነገር ግን እስከ 5 ደቂቃ መቆየት ይችላል። So this time is called the floating time of the activity. So every project has these 4 basic time definitions: total completion time, the earliest time, the latest time. እንግዲህ earliest time earliest finish መሆን ይችላል፣ earliest start መሆን ይችላል። ምክንያቱም አንድ አክቲቪቲ መነሻም መጨረሻም ስላለ መነሻውን earliest start አለው መጨረሻው ላይም earliest finish ልናደርገው እንችላለን። or latest time latest finish latest start latest finish ብለንም ይሄንን እንደገና ለሁለት መክፈል ይችላል ማለት ነው። This is called the latest finish latest start. And the floating time if the tail and head has a difference, right? ሄዱ ላይም የታይም ዲፈረንስ ካለ ፍሎት እንለዋለን ማለት ነው። ልክ ቅድም እንዳልኳችሁ ይሄ አክቲቪቲ ኤ የሚባለው ኬ ዱሬሽን ታይም ቢኖረውና 3 ሰዓት መጨረስ ሲኖርብን 3 ሰዓት 05 መጨረስ ምንም አይነት የፕሮጀክት ዲሌይ ማያመጣ ከሆነ right, so that 5 minutes is called the floating time, right? So that is how we can understand the objective of time analysis in the project management. And having these four, that means the total completion time, the earliest time, the latest time, and the floating time. You can have the critical activities on the project network, and then you can map the critical paths, which this critical path will be defined on the nodes of the network which have a float 0, which they don't allow you to start early or finish early, or start latest or finish latest, which you have to exactly finish with a determined time. So if on the network, if those activities are there, those activities are called the critical paths. So the critical paths will be identified on the network when we have no float. We have no float on the start, the nodes of the network. The nodes of the network. So this is 5 major objectives that we expect by doing the time analysis in the network diagram when we define the critical paths in the project. So before go to the mathematical manipulations, if you have any questions here, you can ask me. Any questions? Are you following me? Are you following me?
Yes.
Okay, so you expect these 5 results from the time analysis. Put that in mind. With that in mind, they will be clear when we discuss mathematical equations for all. But conceptually, you have to understand the time analysis that we do in the network diagram in project management, right? Okay, so let's first see the notations that we use in the time analysis and the network diagram or the network analysis. Most of the times we say that. So any network will have a starting and ending, as we said. So the starting we may say I, the ending we may say J, and this is an activity has to have an arrow. Obviously, we say that most of the times. That activity has a name, A, right? And that activity has a time, we call that K. Most of the times we say that, or we can say duration I, J. K is equal to duration duration from I to J. And this is the starting point, or call it node I, and the ending, node J. Node means event, right? The event, instant time accomplishment. So based on this activity drawing, you can take the following notations. You can have the earliest occurrence time of event A. So you can represent that earliest time. You can say that, or EI. Mostly I prefer this one, EI. I say EI here, which is EI ካለ ምን ማለት ነው? earliest time. Similarly, you can say LJ, latest J, latest J, latest J, or latest I. You can say latest I, latest start I, latest finish J, latest start I, latest finish J. Clear? So you have this Dij, estimated completion time of the activity Ij's, the earliest starting time of the activities, earliest finish of the activities, right? Latest start of the activity I's, latest finish of the activity I's. ስለዚህ አንድ አክቲቪቲ ላይ ምን አለ ማለት ነው። አሁን እዚህ ጋር በደንብ በትክክል ድሮይንጉ ከአንደርስታንድ ካደረጋችሁኝ የሚታያችሁ ከሆነ I don't know, they have I, so I may have earliest start of activity I, አይደለ? earliest start of activity I, or earliest time of activity I ማለት ምን ማለት ነው? earliest start ወይም latest start ነው ማለት ነው። earliest start or earliest finish, sorry, earliest finish ይሆናል ማለት ነው። So when I say EI, it may be the earliest start or the earliest finish. እንግዲህ clearly define ካላደረኩት EI ምለው ለዛ ነው ማለት። ስለዚህ EI ብቻ ካልን or TI ብቻ ካልን TE ካልን, you have to remember that this has to be the earliest start እና the earliest finish የሚለውን represent እንደሚያደርግ earliest finish, earliest on the activity on the project። እዚህ ጋር earliest finish ካለ እዚህ ጋር ነው የሚሆነው ማለት ነው። ግልጽ ነው? So you have to remember that one. ይሄ ግልጽ ነው? the latest ካለም ተመሳሳይ ነው። the latest I, the latest J. This is the finishing one, this is the starting one. So አሁን ከዚህ የምታዩት ምንድነው? one activity which becomes the start will be the finish for the other. የአንደኛው ስታርት ሌላኛው ፊኒሽን ይሆናል። ለምሳሌ እዚህ ጋር ብለን አንድ አክቲቪቲ አለን። ኔክስት አክቲቪቲ ብንጀምር right, this is activity A, this is activity B. So this specific node is the starting for A, I mean the finishing for A. This is a finishing for A and the starting for what? B. Starting for B. So you have to clearly know how we can read time, I mean events on the network. On the networks. Just hope you understand me what I am saying. If it's not clear, just you can ask. So let's have the steps in making calculations.
Timeless, Doctor.
Yes.
ኢርለስ ስታርት ሆኖ ግን ሌተስት ፊኒሽድ የሚያጋጥበት እንትን የለም አጋጣሚ የለም
ማለት
ቀድሞ ቢጀምር መሀል ላይ የተለያዩ እንትኖች ሊኖሩ ይችላሉ
ይችላል። ኢርለስ ስታርት አረከው ሌተስት ፊኒሽ አረከው ማለት እንደዚህ ማለት የኖርማል አለ እንደዛ አይደለም። አንተ ያልከኝ እንደሱ አይደለም። ይሄ ኢርለስ ፊኒሽ ነው የሚባለው። this is called earless finish, this is called the latest finish. ስለዚህ earless latest start አለ እዚህ ጋር እነዚህ ናቸው ታይሞቹ አይደል? አክቲቪቲው ይሄ ፕሮጀክቱ ይሄ ነው። ስለዚህ ይሄ አክቲቪቲ ነው። አሁን አክቲቪቲው እዚች ጋር መጀመር earless start time አለው። ከዛ ቢዘገይ ደግሞ የሆነ ደቂቃዎች መዘግየት ይችላል እንደማለት ነው። ሌተስት ስታርት አለው right? earless finish አለው ሌተስት ፊኒሽ አለው። ምናልባት አንተ ካልከው ተለይቶ ሌተስት ስታርቱ ነው earless finish መሆንም የሚችልበት አጋጣሚ ሊያጋጥመን ይችላል። it depends on what? ዋናው እሱ ነው። it depends on what? It depends on the material and human force allocation on the specific project. በዋናነት ግን the minimum required time for the project is to start on latest start and end on earliest finish. This is the minimum time on the project on that specific activity. The minimum requirement time ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ እንደዚህ ምንድን ናቸው ማለት ነው? They are called floats. They are called floats. Right? እነዚህ ፍሎት ሆኑ ማለት ነው። ለዛ ነው ቅድም ስነሳ ክሪቲካል ፓዝ የሚባለው ፍሎት ዜሮ የሆነ ነው ማለት ምን ማለት ነው? It has to start either in earliest start to the latest finish or what? It has to start from it has to start from earliest start to the latest finish. ለምን ከዛ በኋላ ፍሎት ይፈጠራል። ዲፍረንስ ለምኖር ማለት ነው። ዲፍረንስ ለምኖር that's what is critical path means, and this is how the times that you can map. So hoping that you capture me on defining terms in the time analysis on the network diagram. ሌሎቻችሁ ሳይለንት ከሆናችሁ ያው ጥያቄ የላችሁም በሚል ነው። አለበለዚያ እንደገለታው መጠየቅ ትችላላችሁ ያልገባችሁ ነገር ካለ። ግልጽ ነው። የተሰማችሁ ከሆነ ጥያቄ ያላችሁ መጠየቅ ትችላላችሁ። So in order to find the time analysis, the first step is computation begin from the start node and move towards the end node. It is called the forward approach. In the forward approach, most of the times we calculate the earliest times. ሁለት አይነት አፕሮቾች አሉ። Right? That means a forward competition ኔትወርክ ላይ ነው። እንግዲህ ኔትወርክ ላይ ፎርዋርድ ኔትወርክ ኮምፒት ማድረግ እንችላለን ወይም ባክዋርድ ኮምፒት ማድረግ እንችላለን። ባክዋርድ ኮምፒት እናደርጋለን። ሶሪ እንግሊዝ ጽሁፉ ለምንድን ነው በፎርዋርድ የምናደርገው? በፎርዋርድ ጊዜ የምናገኘው ኢርለስ ታይም የሚባሉትን ነው። ፖይንት ያዙልኝ እዚህ ላይ the ኢርለስ ታይምስ። ኢርለስ ታይም ስንል ሁለት ነገሮች እናገኛለን ብያቸዋለሁ። ኢርለስ ታይምስ ላይ ኢርለስ ስታርት እና ኢርለስ ፊኒሽ የሚባሉትን ካልኩሌት እናደርጋለን። በማን ማለት ነው? በፎርዋርድ አፕሮች። the second approach is called the latest times the latest times. So the latest times will give you the latest start again and latest finish, right? So this will be very important. እንግዲህ ከዚህ በኋላ ነው the difference between the latest start and the earliest start will give you the head float. አስታውሱኝ እዚህ ጋር በደንብ አዳምጡኝ። the latest start and the difference between the latest start and the earliest start will give you the